Hello, David Zritsky from the Bond Experience. Welcome back. You can probably tell I'm not in my usual office space. I'm outside. We're battling rain, killer leaves, and 20-mile-per-hour winds. But is that going to stop us from meeting our next guest? I don't think so. I'd like to introduce you to my friend, my cohort, Brian from Privada Cigar Club. Welcome.
David, thank you so much for having me. It is an absolute honor to be here. You have no idea. I've been watching your videos forever.
Oh my gosh. You know, I could be very reciprocal because your face, your hat, the glasses, the whole look, I've seen in all types of events and videos myself. So
thank you.
This is going to be a great conversation.
Absolutely. And I was so honored that you and your father-in-law smoked the first release of Delectados. I wanted to make sure we showed some love back, and we made a nice little post. And a lot of the members, turns out, were already following you. Some of them are new followers. And I just thought that was pretty cool to be able to kind of share community like that.
I love it. And, you know, you just actually put something out I want to refer to. Community. I mean, Privada Cigar Club, you've created something, at least in my observation, but I want you to fill in the gaps of not just a company, certainly not just about fulfillment, enjoying cigars and spreading the love and knowledge of cigars. You've created a community where people are even getting tattoos of the Privado. How did this begin, and what is this all about?
David, I never imagined in a million years that there'd be 10 people with a Privada tattoo or any company that I had anything to do with. And I'll just full transparency. I started this as a business. This was a business. I had collected so many cigars, I didn't know what to do with them. When I would try to sell them, no one would give me what I thought was the market value for them. And I felt like they didn't want to pay me the amount for them because they didn't understand how special these cigars were. So what I decided to do was, at this time, 2017, subscription businesses are all the rave. And so I started a subscription business, just a shot in the dark, and said, if I'm going to sell these things at a slight discount, I'm going to write about them, I'm going to pair them, I'm going to make the cigar an experience, and I'm going to make you, as the smoker, understand how special this thing is. And I guess there was a void because this thing took off. What I didn't expect was the community, and the community aspect I came from a very thankless business prior to this. I was an auto transport broker. I've been in a number of other businesses. Most of those businesses, it's transactional, and no one's thanking anyone in the end, typically, mostly complaining, especially with the auto transport. I mean, you're dealing with cars being shuffled all around the country by, truck drivers, and people get lost, they hit traffic, they get into accidents. So not a lot of people leave happy in that business. So when I first got a thank you email from one of our first members, I was totally taken back. And I said, you know what? Here's an opportunity for me a bad customer, a bad client in most businesses require more of your energy than a good one, right?
Sure.
Right. Okay, so now here I have this opportunity to have great people that appreciate the small things I'm doing for them. And so I wrote back, and I now have about 10,000 friends all across this country that I've exchanged multiple emails with. I do about 3-4 hours a day on the computer doing emails. Some of the emails, if they're just strictly technical, someone, might help you with where your shipment is. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's I can only do so many of those a day. But so I became friends with these people, and what happened after that was even more serendipitous, I guess, or just hard to believe, is these people became friends with each other, and that's when the real magic happened. And I truly believe it's a bit of an anomaly of a business. I also believe that this is the future of e-commerce. I think that we're just at the tip of the iceberg of what the internet can do and what it's going to be used for. And I believe that you're going to have specialists in your life. Like David, if you started a business, knowing your passion for the Bond experience, if you started a business tomorrow that was a new item of clothing every month or every quarter, okay, and you're using your taste from studying the Bond classic style, men's style, gentleman's style, and Spy. spy style too. And you said, okay, it's like an affordable price. I'm in. I know that this is your passion, and I think that serving those people would become an even bigger passion than just the transactional business. And so that's how it happened. I wrote a book on it. It's called Real Communal Commerce. I did not write it because I thought I would become a famous writer. I wrote it because I want to, in 10 years from now, look back when this is a somewhat popular of a style of business and say, look, we kind of, wrote the book on that. Just for a little ego when I'm older. I can say, hey, you whippersnappers don't know what you're talking about.
I have a huge smile on right now because there's so many connections and comparisons to how I describe the Bond community, even to the brands, the official brands of James Bond, because I think they've gotten a finger on the pulse of who they are. Obviously, that's my lean, like you said, is the sartorial and brand aspect, is because people gravitate to a story. If there's a story with a product, and not just a product, I think products are, as you know, commoditized. But if something has a good story to it, you can become a character in that story.
You just hit the nail right on the head. So that's like chapter 2. The first chapter is like getting your family together, and the second chapter is a little, or the third chapter is a little bit more about that. Okay. When you give story to an object, you give it life, you give it soul, and people want that in their products. If they're going to spend their hard-earned money on something, they want more for their money than just a transaction. I truly believe that over time, that will kind of die out. The problem is it's really hard to scale, right? So at some point, like we limited the cigar club at one point because we just didn't have the infrastructure to handle it and keep our members as happy as we had the whole time there. So we put a cap on it. We're now open again. We built more infrastructure. We have more cigars. We've been aging things forever. So it's there to do that, and we have the manpower to serve everyone properly, and still have that personal connection. So no, you're 100% right, and you would be able to write that story so easily. You do it every day when you make your videos on each of these pieces. So I'm all for you starting the the experience atelier or clothing box. I'm in. I'll be your first customer.
I love this. Yeah. All right, we'll think tank it over cigars. So
great.
Here's what we're here to do. I mean, it's not just to get to know two friends that have been virtually connected. We're going to smoke a cigar or two together. Now, you sent me something right here. Everybody can see it's still wrapped. What am I holding in my hand? What's the story with this?
So again, I was really honored when you and your father-in-law smoked the first Delectados, which was blended by master blender Eladio Diaz, who's a very special person, a legend in our industry. It was behind some of the most sought-after cigars in the world. And so when we put the cigar out, we did it with the James Bond, Delectados brand in mind, obviously.
In fact, I have the prop right here.
There you go. There you go. And so we do this a lot, David, and it gets us in trouble. We're a private club, so I feel like it's okay to bend the rules a little bit. Like, they're not things that are going on sale in shelves across the country, so why do I have to follow every trademark rule? It's like always like that kind of thing. I'm being sarcastic, of course, but you get it. We do a lot of nods to things, and so with this, I said let's do the Bond thing because the newest Bond movie was one of the best cinematic experience I've ever had. I swear to you, it had been like 3 years since I've been to the movies. I'll give you that. Okay, so I was just one of maybe the only major thing that I missed during COVID was the movies. And I know they're probably going away soon, but I grew up, that's my Blockbuster. We lost that. It is what it is. I would not want to get up and go anywhere now after having the convenience of Netflix. However, it was a great experience to walk in there, smell the popcorn, and know it's Friday night in the suburbs somewhere. And, you're doing movie night. You're getting candy.
It's almost like a psychological, nostalgic play that affects you. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. So we do a lot of that stuff. It just so happened some gentleman from South Florida, probably cigar manufacturers, had already taken the trademark, I think in the early 2000s. So They must have been watching I always forget the names of not every movie, but
Die Another Day?
Yes. Okay. So they must have seen that a while ago, right? When that first came out. What was that, 98? Something around that where?
It was actually 2002.
Oh, later than I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Early 2000s, they apply for this trademark. They get it. They don't do anything with it as far as I know. They let it cancel. I applied for it. And just yesterday, I told you like 6 months ago that we won it. I am so novice to trademarks. All we did was like get some registry number, but yesterday I actually got the email saying that this is your, trademark number and blah blah blah. So we have it, and we can do something really really fun with it, and I think it's fitting because we want to make all of those cigars with Mr. Diaz, and I think it's fitting of how legendary he is and how legendary the Bond franchise is. It seems like a fit.
Now, this second one that you sent me, because I love this.
Yeah.
I opened it while you were talking, and everybody can kind of see it in high definition. Now,
Yeah.
is it the same band but with a red background, or why does
It
this
is.
look like it's? Yeah, this
It
looks
is
amazing.
It is. So it's the same band with a what we're calling oxblood background. It's very tough to color match exactly when making cigar bands. Printing cigar bands is an art in itself, and there are very few printers that actually make cigar bands, and they're very expensive, by the way, to make. It becomes a real pain in the butt because everyone's backed up 60 days. So if you get an idea, you're planning for 3-4 months out. So this is the oxblood, Delectados oxblood. We decided that we'll never make the original Delectados in the green box ever again. It was a one-time thing to commemorate the beginning of this new brand. So this is number 2. This was the second blend that I got from the Diaz Cabrera factory, and I fell in love with it. I thought it was in some ways better than the first. I think it's just going to be a matter of preference because the response we got to that when we released it in the Limited Cigar Association, which is sort of like another subscription, but it's for stores, and there's 435 of them right now across the country, and they all take a very small amount of a really cool cigar each month, and we won't sell it on our site. It forces our guys to get off the couch with Netflix and go into Blockbuster, right? That's what we're trying to do because we want brick and mortar to stay alive and healthy, which isn't easy.
I love that. By the way, I have some accoutrements. You probably have a million things there. I've got my cutter. Do you use a punch or do you use a cutter?
I always use a straight cutter. Now, I do not love this company, but they have a patent on this, and this is the best cigar cutter, in my opinion. It's called the Teardrop Zycar. I got to give them credit where credit's due. I think this is the 2 or the X2 or something like that. And so I want to talk to you about this before you light it up because it's very difficult. So when I cut a cigar, what you really need to do is you look at that cigar and look around the head of the cigar, and you're going to see little lines going around in a circle. Okay? And so those are the caps. And so Cuban style is triple cap. Dominican style or newer world style is double cap. This looks like a double cap to me. This looks like a double cap. 1, 2, yeah. And so what I try to do is that first cap, the maximum you want to take off is that first cap, but I try to do even less. I try to someone called it pinching the skull head, which is weird, but it's always stuck with me. And that's kind of what you want the blades to do is kind of pinch the top because you don't necessarily need, and then you can gauge from there.
Right.
Not a good enough cut.
Now, do you take off the band or no?
I never take off the band until it's time to. You're gonna love this. This is a David fact, okay? And by the way, part of your videos are like the stuff you add to it. Like when you were doing the cologne video and you sprayed it in the center of your chest and you explained why. I was like, that's why I watch this guy. My wife's like, oh my God, with this stuff. And I'm like, this is important stuff, okay? This is technique.
Wives are very patient with us. I get it. I totally get it.
So there was a guy who disappeared. I learned so much from this man. It was called the Dr. Joe Show, and he was somewhat of a disgruntled guy from Queens that knew so much about cigars. There were points where I wondered if he could really know what he knew, but he did a lot of research, and he was so passionate about cigars. And he kind of was me before Privada in a way, but one day he just disappeared, David. He wrote a comment under a video saying that he felt sick. No one's ever seen him again. There's rumors that he did fall ill with something, and he sold off his collection. Like, there's a couple of people on Reddit like, oh, yeah, I bought cigars from him. He wasn't feeling well or something, and no one's ever heard from him since. Could be alive, could not be. I don't know. But he always says, you keep, and I found this to be a little quirky comment, quirky fact kind of thing. But it's interesting. You keep the band on at a lounge to evoke conversation.
Which makes sense. This is storytelling.
Yeah. It's like showing the label in your shirt. And it's like, oh, I know, I love, Tom Brown or whatever,
By the way, I have accoutrements. I always do. I mean, cigar smoking to me is something to be taken very slowly, relaxed. I mean, I just told you, this was my last quote unquote meeting of the day because it's been a topsy-turvy day. But I do have a drink. Now, I have to ask the question. So tonight I have just a little bit of Johnny Walker Black. It's in a Quantum of Solace glass, same type of glass they used. I got to be on brand. It's great. It's a great digestive. But do you have a particular drink? Do you not drink when you smoke?
I'm trying not to drink lately. I definitely, so I don't have a drinking problem, but I do drink too much when I drink. So I've just, the longer I can stay without drinking, the better off I am. I don't always drink until I'm hungover the next day, but it's 50-50. So during the week, I plan to typically not have anything. And what I do is I like to eat and then have the cigar. So I'll use the water picks because I work out of a studio that's like very close to my house. So I'll run home, do the water pick just to clean out. I'm very conscious of my oral hygiene because I'm in the cigar business. And so I do the water pick and then I feel like I have a cleansed palate so I can smoke that cigar. Keep in mind, I'm smoking cigars typically for different reasons than average people. I am trying to test, see if they're ready, see if they're aged enough, see if I like the blend, and is this something we want to purchase. So, I just try to cleanse the palate. You can't go wrong with brown spirits, really. I used to say the only thing you could truly go wrong with was IPA, but even that, I enjoy a good IPA with a cigar sometimes. It's just the bitter. It does change. But if you're not rating cigars and it's enjoyable, who cares? Cigars are supposed to be enjoyable and they're supposed to be fun.
I found it in my experience, it's almost like food. There's certain wines that go with food that enhance the food, that enhance the wine. And if I pair it up right, and yes, I'm sorry, this is going to be a guy's remark. There's just something about the old ways of having the brown liquid and the cigar and having a good conversation with a fellow Bond nut. Speaking of Bond nut, I'd love to see what you're going to use, and even if there's a technique to light this, because you must have seen.
Yes, I did.
He considers himself an aficionado, and he lights the damn thing on fire. But I do have. You probably saw this. This was a gift. This is terrible to show this. Kids, don't try this at home, please. It's not a real gun. But it is, it's a lighter. It's actually specifically, and I don't even know if you could see the flame.
Oh, so it is a torch.
Oh, it's a torch.
Okay. Do you have fluid? Because it looks like it might be low, or you're got.
I just need to turn it up.
Okay. So I'm going to show you. This is a really terrible lighter to show you with because it's pretty high power. So I'm going to turn this down a little bit, and I'll try to show you how obnoxiously I light a cigar, and I'll tell you why I'm doing it the way that I'm doing it. And so we'll just start there. So I'm going to what's called toast the foot.
Yep.
All right. And
by the way, I'm happy to say already I do this. So I'm with you all the way.
Okay, so we're toasting the foot. Now, what are we looking for? I'll try to get it in the camera and still be able to see.
Yeah,
we're looking for red, right? And then once I start in the middle, I work my way to the side, left, top, bottom, and then I start to do this. The idea is to keep that cherry all red. Now, if I still have parts that aren't red yet, and don't worry, sometimes you're going to char the edges. It happens. It'll pass quickly. And then as soon as I see that red it's the whole the whole foot of it is red, then it's ready to smoke.
Perfect.
Wow, is this a good cigar? Okay, so this is a little fruitier. Dried fruits, tangy fruits. I do remember like halfway point kind of getting more of like pine wood than I would normally, like a cedar type wood. But this is a fantastic seasonal cigar.
So, despite the hat, you're going to be our Yoda. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of people watching this right now that have dabbled in cigars. Some people haven't even tried a cigar.
Sure.
And we know that several of the Bonds smoke cigars. In fact, you may not know this, but in No Time to Die, one of your favorite movies from a year ago, they filmed a scene where Daniel Craig was smoking a cigar.
Really?
I'll send you a picture of that. But more importantly, talk to us about some of the simple things, because I've seen people like puffing away, puffing away, puffing away, as opposed to you and I are doing a rendezvous. You know, we're going back and forth. It's not, it's not a sprint. It's a
Right.
bit of a marathon. But also, should we be looking for different tastes, textures, smoothness in the beginning of the cigar versus as we move through it?
Sure.
Walk us through that.
Okay. So first is to get the lighting and cutting down. If you need a video on that, I'm sure I made a video somewhere along the way. I'm sure there's other great videos out there. Cutting and lighting. You should not be chopping off too much of the foot, of the tip, of the head. And you want to start off right. So you got to make sure that all of that turns red. And if you start waving right away, a wave means there's a piece of the foot that's not burning yet. You just touch that up real quick. I like to touch up in the beginning of the cigar if I need to, because it's important to how well the cigar can burn going forward. It is not a race. Of course, this should be a calming experience. Sometimes it gives me a little anxiety, like nicotine, but it's still calming at the same time somehow. The idea is that it's enjoyable to the palate, flavors, sensations. In fact, the cigar that we're smoking, David, comes from, I told you, Diaz Cabrera, which is the original Davidoff, camp.
Yeah.
And the whole camp, the Kellners, the Diaz, they only talk about sensation. I've spent a little bit of time with these people on a one-on-one, and I'm almost convinced that they think I'm nuts when I talk about the different
By the way,
flavors.
I love that. Let me pause before I claim that I'm nuts.
Right. I think that they think I'm nuts because of the flavors. They're like, oh boy, it's like the first time you see sommelier, I'm getting, and it's like, oh, he's got the tennis balls. That really, you smell tennis balls, and so I get this all the time, and I feel like the old school Dominican crew. They look at it like that. They're like, what are you talking about? They only talk about sensations when they blend. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Sure.
A sensation is going to be stimulating the 5 things that your mouth can do, which is sweet, sour, spicy, bitter, and umami. Okay? So, and they talk a lot about this tobacco stimulates this part of the tongue. So just pay attention to, most people can't retrohale. David, a lot of people think that you inhale cigars. It's part of the reason why people are against cigars. They think you're inhaling it. It is not to be inhaled. Do not inhale this.
You'd be vomiting all over the camera.
I know. I saw some girl on TikTok do it with like a big 60 ring gauge, and she's inhaling over and over. Like she has no idea. And I'm like, I wanted to shake this. Please don't do that. You're going to get sick. So
the other thing about puffing away too much is you start to heat up the cigar too much. It gets too hot, right? That's a thing.
Yes, and that will hamper the flavors.
By the way, I've got to tell you, and I'm saying this about your own product, so I could say it with great impunity. This is delicious.
Oh.
Like it's right from the get-go. And this is what I said about the other one too. There's a smoothness to it. I've had cigars where I'm like, all right, I'm going to get through this thing. It really, you almost like it's like a to-do list. I got this. I'm going to break this cigar. This cigar and I feel like we're partners right now, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's burning beautifully too, by the way.
This cigar's a masterpiece. The first one was pretty much a masterpiece too. I think this one goes even deeper in flavor. The sensation, to follow up on that, is, and thank you, by the way, the sensation and so you're paying attention to the tongue, salt, pepper. A lot of folks, American bold cigar smokers, are looking for pepper. This has a white pepper, David. It's just enough to make the tongue know that there's tingling and things going on, but it's not over the top, and it's not going to, tax your mouth. Okay. So what do I sense on this is, right off the bat, it's one of the creamiest cigars I've ever had. So a lot of people say smooth, creamy. A good cigar should be creamy. The blenders are blending for a creaminess. They're literally thinking about this when they're making a cigar, is I want the cigar to be creamy. It is the favorable sensation or texture a smoke should be, okay? And then you're looking at the salts and the pepper, the stimulation on the tongue. It's a light smoke. It's not taxing the mouth, and I think that's what you mean by smooth.
It's very smooth. And by the way, speaking of pepper, I'm going to keep peppering you with questions because I'm trying to get into the mind of my audience. And
I love that segue, though.
I'm just going to, it's going to be like the Barbara Walters special, but with cigars.
I love it. I just hope I don't bore anyone.
Oh, dude, I love following your channel and your experiences because
Thank
you're
you
a born
so much.
storyteller. Very relaxing too. There are some quick talkers that it's like it almost depletes your strength, but I think you inspire people. But I will say this: I'm really been curious how much the original Delectados, these right here, that sold out, I think pretty quickly. You tell me otherwise. How many of those were pure Bond fans versus people that were just, I'm kind of curious about the cigar?
If I had to guess, I would guess about 3% Bond fans. I would guess that 97% of the people that bought that cigar had no idea it was a Bond reference until they bought it and either went home and looked on YouTube or Instagram or something like that.
I am shocked.
Or saw your video. Yeah, for sure. No, most of them did not. Very few people mentioned it to me, and a lot of the ones that did came from you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Were people, when it did sell out, were they like, come on, man, surely you have a stick somewhere hidden in your couch?
Well, we go through that. We go through that a lot. And there's layers to it, David, because like I said, these people are my friends to a very large degree. As much as most people are my friends, now you're becoming my friend right now. This is how friends are. Like, I don't know about you. My social life's not huge. I have a child in school and we associate them, but we're not from here. And I think a lot of Americans are in that space, whether it's better or worse, the community kind of aspect of things.
Follow-up question to that, Your Honor. Talk to me about Bond yourself. Now, how much of you is Bond fan? I mean, do you dabble in it? I mean, obviously you're not fanatical, which is a good thing, but...
So a lot of people that I talk to about cigars say they vocalize that they're like, I don't know what you know. And I'm always like, just stop, stop that. And I'm sure if I said the same to you, but you really know a lot about Bond. It's for me, I go deeper than surface level. I buy the clothes. I'm into the spirit of it. And when I started watching your channel, I didn't realize how important it was to me when I was, I think maybe 10 years old. My father bought me a big box set. I asked him for it. I really wanted it. A big box set of the entire Bond collection up to that point, which I think was prior to Pierce. And so I would watch them all the time, Goldfinger and the Pussy Galore from Russia with all that stuff. What a line. I don't know if they can do that nowadays. And
it's part of history. You can't change it.
Sure. And so, I was in love with the idea of Bond. Obviously, you're able to rattle off the names, and I'm just terrible with names and certain. But I remember a lot of it, and I'm always in the spirit of James Bond. It's the coolest thing ever. I mean, come on. The guy's the coolest. And didn't matter which one either. By the way, that documentary that they made on the guy that was Bond for like one movie, the Australian dude, you met him. I saw you with pictures with him.
Yeah, George Lazenby.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty
He's
cool
a character.
himself. Yeah.
But you know, that's the thing about George, is that George is the guy you saw in the movie. Like I don't think he was acting. I think he is just like that, whether it's, you know, with women or with the way he walks or addresses people. He's got that panther-like swagger to him.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
I agree with you, though. I think Bond, the reason why a lot of people, by the way, men and women, gravitate to him and the movies is because of that kind of cool essence. Like, you know, you and I, we trip, we fall, we say the wrong things to our wives, I'm sure. This guy says all the right things, he does all the right things, but he understands sort of that sometimes the old ways are best, which I think was an interesting in Skyfall when they're doing, you know, the straight edge shaves and things like that, because the whole point of Bond is he takes a ridiculous amount of pleasure in the simple nostalgic things of the past, like cigar smoking.
You nailed that. You nailed that. I mean, that is a big part of it for me now. Back then it wasn't. It was, if I'm being honest, I just love the look of it and the style and he was just so cool. Connery. I mean, and the film. I love that it took you places. This last movie, they nailed every single aspect of what a Bond film can do. You know, they took us places.
Except for his survival.
Not exciting to you at all? Like a new day is coming, or no?
No. I do. There's many aspects of the movie that I really do enjoy. I think that, and I've done videos on this, but my audience knows this all too well. I do feel like they missed a trick where I want to leave a Bond movie punching the air, thinking, I'm not Bond, but I got a little bit of Bond in me right now, and I can do anything. And you know, somewhat, I'm going to bounce back. You know, bad day at work. What would Bond do? You know, and unfortunately, I get it. He blew up. You know, but he has a child.
He's a hero. He's a hero.
He is a hero, and believe me,
I know, the best dressed out of all of them. I mean, I love that outfit. I got it at home. I don't know where to wear it. I don't know where I'm wearing this. I have the sweater. I have the fatigue. If you want to call it a fatigue, I guess you could call it a fatigue. I don't know where am I going to wear that, especially in Orlando. You know, I mean, it's not going to happen.
Come back to the Northeast. That's like all we wear around here.
I will bring my Bond outfits with me. I just thought it was brilliant. The first 10 minutes. Now, again, it's my first time in a theater in 3 years. We rented for my company. We rented an entire theater. It was like $250. I was like, this is cheaper than if I bought everyone tickets. So we had to do that. We got the theater. The movie starts, and from minute one, I'm in. By minute 15, which is like a 15-minute intro, I'm on the floor like, oh my God. My wife said, when they ran the credits, my wife said, that was just the intro. That was the best intro in any movie ever. It was absolutely captivating, man. And Daniel Craig, he's the I think he's the Bond for our time. He was my favorite Bond. I have trouble going back prior than him sometimes. I think that this guy was perfect for it. I think the fact that the media didn't accept him as Bond gave him grit. And man, even when he, like his physical movements, when he gets hit with that, the I'm sure we're not spoiler alerting anything. When he gets hit with the bomb from the tomb. In the beginning, you know, it's just he's just like strong. He's everything a spy should be.
Picks up and just starts running like a crazy man. No, I'm with you. So Craig is I would say my second favorite Bond. I still gravitate, and it has nothing to do with my age. I go back to Sean Connery because to me he's a bit of the template for what Bond is. The cool factor, and the movies are almost unapproachable back then. I mean, the movies from the 60s.
Did you feel like Piers was almost too perfect for the role? I loved the movies that he made, but
I loved him.
Okay, you loved him.
He to me was a great amalgamation of a mixture of Roger Moore's humor and Sean Connery mixed together. So you had that kind of, and yes, too perfect in the sense that, I think out of all the Bonds, that's the one my wife would say, give me a pass on this one. Will you? Give me a hall pass. Because he is.
He is a great looking guy.
It looks like God painted him.
Yeah,
It's just ridiculous.
Yes.
But Daniel Craig looks like an assassin, which is, by the way, it is so cold out here in Pennsylvania. I have breath coming out, not the smoke.
I'm sorry. I'm very comfortable. I wish you could be here.
This is the best Wednesday night I've had in a long time.
Awesome. Well, I'm proud to be a part of that, and thank you for having me on, and thank you to your audience. And I'll send all my guys over here. They're gonna love you even more. He's like he was made.
I want to go out on a limb here, and we got to read the comments when this goes and is published. But would you ever consider hosting an entirely Bond-focused cigar event?
100% I would. Of course I would. Two things I love. And I have the knowledge on that subject to host that. And we have the, if we need anything, we have people, in the hospitality industry and different companies that would probably want to sponsor that.
I think we should do that. This coming weekend, I have an annual gathering. It's a little bit of a celebration of the 60th anniversary, but also it's a celebration. We do this kind of holiday entry point for local Bond fans. At least that's how it started. And we had a bunch of local people come in to do what we call gather all. Instead of Thunderball, it's called gather all.
Okay.
And they come together for 6 to 8 hours at this wonderful distillery in my hometown.
Wow.
And we have drinks and we sit back and we do trivia, and the brands donate a bunch of trivia prizes.
That's
it's a lot
cool.
of fun. But talk to me. I've seen the cigar events that you put on.
Yeah.
To me, that's a natural thing. But where did the cigar event idea come from, or what are they all about?
Well, okay, so I've been so online that I never wanted to do events. So something that some people know about me was I was in the music business since I was 15 years old. I actually started in Philadelphia. A guy named Scott Storch did my first demo at Sigma Sound in 12th and Walnut, I think. 12th and Vine. So I thought that I was going to be this huge superstar, pop singer, R&B singer. I'm not sure. It's a mix of things. And at around 31, I gave myself an expiration. I was like, that's it. I'm not doing another. We went through the 20s. It was a lot of fun. It certainly had French benefits. It was heartbreaking at the same time. Chasing a dream that seems, somewhat impossible is very tough. And of course, there were drugs and things like that I wanted to kind of get away from. And so I gave myself an expiration, and I had to kill my ego. And I think this is the best thing that ever happened to me. So I lived in New York. I was very well known in the city. No waiting in line at nightclubs. I knew all the promoters. I played some of their birthday parties and all this stuff. Famous people, blah, blah, blah. And then I moved to Florida to kind of get away from this because there was no way I was going to be able to stop doing music in New York. Just people, places, things that were like, no. I was signed to LL Cool J. It was everything but the hit single on the radio. And so I went down to Florida, to Miami. I moved right to Miami. And no one would even look at me. I'm telling David, I used to snap my fingers in New York. I was an artist. I knew people. And in Miami, no one would look at me. And I spent about 2 months wondering, I guess I'm not good looking down here. I'm not Miami good looking. I'm New York good looking, right?
Exactly. So you're like a New York 8, but a Miami 6.
That's exactly how I rate myself too. So but with the snazzy dressing and all that stuff. So, okay. So I go to Miami, and no one will even look at me. So finally, after being depressed for months, I realized that coming out of music, I had to kill this ego, because you really, to be a superstar, you have to believe things that are a little far-fetched. Yeah. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing that thing. You believe you have a message that everyone needs to hear. So killed the ego. Very depressing time in my life. I got a job 3 months into this as a chauffeur in Miami. And it turns out it wasn't that I was bad looking in Miami. It's that all the women in Miami are chasing money so like blatantly that the minute I put on a suit, David, I was a black car driver, and man, everyone, all of a sudden people were paying attention to me again. And I was like, what's the suit? What are you going to do? Walk around in a suit all day to prove that you have money? So it was very weird. It was good for me, though. It was really good for me to kill that ego. So when I got into cigars, I never wanted to do anything like that. I get anxiety. One of the things that got me out of music also was going on my first tour. Every day I was sick. I was nervously ill before shows and stuff. It weighed on me mentally. I still got on stage. I still performed well. Once I was up there, the nerves went away. But spending your whole day thinking about what you have to do that night, that didn't seem like a lot of fun to me. I watched some very successful groups that do make money full-time off music. Didn't look like a healthy lifestyle to me, and I was already kind of on my way out, and I said, you know what, this isn't for me. I got to find something else. So when I found cigars, I didn't want to put my face on it. That was not something I wanted to do, and I definitely didn't want to do events. This industry is run off events. If you have a cigar brand, that's all you do. You're on the road 100 days, 150 days a month, doing events at least 80, doing events in Kentucky, here, there, and that's not me. I can serve people better, in other ways, like procuring the best cigars we can possibly get and communicating with them online from the comfort of my own office or home. And so I never wanted to do events. We sponsored a lounge in Philadelphia about a little more than a year ago, and the gentleman there is Mr. Lou Liga at the Fishtown Lou Liga Cigar Lounge in Fishtown. It's also a Privada lounge. It's the only cigar lounge in the country where we have a wall and we sponsor them. They have all of our products. Yeah, it's really cool. It's in a Live Nation campus, which is part of the reason why I wanted to do it. It's a beautiful campus. There's nowhere else in the country that there's a cigar lounge in a place like this that's not for nothing. It's got energy. It's young. There's a Brooklyn Bowl there. There's a 5-iron golf, indoor golf thing. There's a comedy club. The famous rock venue is there. It's a really cool place. And so I jumped at the opportunity. He's a big event guy. That's where he thrives. He's in crowds. That's where he does his best work. And so he got us to do Privada Fest. And then it's been 5 years, coming up on 5 years. And the members have been asking me from day one, when is the first, Privada event, Privada Con, whatever you want to do. And so finally I caved and said we would do it in November. And we did it. And it was very successful. It was truly brilliant for me. Because I needed a little bit of grounding as far as I started to get wrapped up in the industry mentally a little bit. I'm competitive, and people don't like the new guy, and so they say things, and so there's social media beefs and weird stuff that happen, and when I saw 500 of my friends show up to this thing from all over the country and give me a hug, and the love fest that was out there, just people bonding over cigars. David, all corners of the country, all walks of life, all religions, Muslims, Jews, Christians, white, black, Spanish, Asian. They're from all over, and they're bonding over this thing, and Privada has something to do with it. It was so heartwarming that it brought me right back to what I'm here to do, which is to serve my people. The industry will be what it will be, and I will do my best to contribute to it, but my people are my focus.
There's a major problem with this video so far, and I'm going to throw this out. You're like, oh shoot, what did I do?
I'm used to it.
but here's the thing: you say you're not the face of Privada, and yet you are so articulate. I'm not blowing smoke.
No.
I'm not blowing smoke. You can encapsulate very eloquently and with a lot of thoughtfulness and understanding of not just what's happening, because people can talk about product. I've seen it all day long. You can
Sure.
train yourself to talk about product. What you do very well is you talk about the community. You talk about the people and the fact that, this is an inanimate object that has drawn you and I together, quasi Bond fans that were building a friendship and a relationship. But
Yeah.
you've done that with thousands of people.
Yeah.
So as much as you say you're not the face,
Okay.
I think it is a very self-deprecating way to say this, but the actions and who people know you are and what they follow is you.
I first of all, I'm honored to hear all of that, and thank you very much. I make sure to humble myself daily and to keep my eye on the prize, which is,
Okay.
serving the community and the people. It's about the best cigars, and it's about the story, and it's about all of that stuff, right? That passion. One day, about a year into the business, I got a call from Brian Glynn of Cigar Obsession, who recently removed himself from YouTube. He called me and asked me if I wanted to do a live. And I told my wife, I was like, I don't know. I don't want to, this is where we're going to get into that thing. I don't want any ego involved. Like, I just want to do this and have a nice business and relax and take care of what we have to take care of. And she was like, just go do it. So I went and did it. And I don't know if he was buzzed, but I was hammered by the end of this thing. It was 3 hours, 2 cigars, a lot of cognac. I'm a big cognac guy. And we probably had 1,500 members when I got there at 7 p.m. that evening. On the ride home, my wife called me and told me that our membership had doubled.
What?
And I was like, wait a minute, wait, are you? When you say doubled, she's like, you were at like 1533, we're at like 2980. I was like, wow. She was like, I told you, you have to, get out and talk about this stuff. They want to hear you. They want a tour guide on this journey that you're going on. You're the right guy. You trained for this your whole life. You just didn't know that you were training for this.
That's what it is. It's you know what it is? God, I hate to bring it back to Bond.
Makes me
Here I am.
emotional, David. It makes me emotional to think about.
So here's it is. The best spokespeople, the best people to represent anything, brand or otherwise, are the reluctant heroes. The reluctant people that say, it's not me, and yet they get catapulted this. Your favorite movies, Luke Skywalker, Indiana Jones, they're reluctant heroes. By the way, I was going to tell you to please smoke this thing because I am loving life right now. I don't even know what's happening around this black precipice called life. This is so good.
It's one of the better cigars I've had this year, I would say. I try to stay away from telling people what's the best, but better. They'll figure it out on their own. I promise you, you're not going to get any duds from me, and if you do, I'll exchange it. But it's a masterpiece. This is 3 decades of blending the same tobaccos to know what each one of those things does. So we're lucky to get to have these products. By the way, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
I was going to shoot an elephant in the room, but maybe we're going to dovetail into the same thing because for the last, 45 minutes or so, people have been staring at 2 guys talking about Bond and smokes and how to do things. I hope maybe you're enjoying a cigar out there as well with us. I'll promote that you do that ahead of time. But Privada Cigar Club. Mm-hmm. So you've got to describe for the uninitiated audience that I have, when we talk about a club and we talk about community, what is the club? Is it something that anybody can join? Do you have to give blood? Do you have to sacrifice a goat? And what do you get?
Okay. So right now, the club is open. It took me about a year to get to a point where we could reopen for a long period of time and accept pretty much, all new members. Of course, 21 and over. But it had been capped for quite a while, for 2 or 3 years. I hope I'm not exaggerating on that. At least 2 years it had been capped. And that was because the cigars are rare. They're limited. In the beginning, we were just finding them. As time went on, they were made specifically for us, but we love to age. Post-production aging is a big thing, which just means storing cigars properly until they're absolutely ripe, like this cigar. So when you join Privada Cigar Club, you get a box each month. It comes with a package like this, and this is a Mylar lined, basically it's a humidor bag. It's what it is. It's a humidor bag, and it has a two-way humidification.
Is it sort of like what I received? Or
Yes, that is the exact same material.
By the way, I love this. You ready for this, ladies and gentlemen of the James Bond community? Look what it says on here. How is that?
So we got 5 cease and desists in about a 3-month period, and so we decided to just say that we were banned everywhere, and that was it. I was so frustrated. Everything I did, someone would write me and say, "I already used that," or "I did this," or so.
By the way, in the humidifier, you get this, which I love. I mean, the care that goes into this, not just the storytelling, but making sure that people know that just like when you get a nice watch in, it's well protected.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So once a month they get this, you're saying?
Yeah, and it's important. I have to do it like this, and no one else does this because it's not cost effective. But I have to do it like this because I need you in the end, and I think this is also what built the community so firmly. This is about shared experience. Imagine that drink that you're drinking, okay? If someone, shared that with you, it's like a Netflix show, and you walk into your office, or like when The Sopranos were on. You're from the Northeast. When The Sopranos were on, like Monday, guess what? Everyone's, or whatever. I think it was on Thursday night. Friday morning, everyone's around the water cooler. Did you see this? What do you think's going to happen? And so that's what the community offers if you want it. Not everyone participates in. Right. The social media aspect of it, or the groups, or that kind of stuff. But if you want that, it's there for you. And it's also really cool to be able to fall in love with something, show a picture of it on your social media, and one of the fellow members, like if you say like, "I love this, I got notes of coffee and blah blah blah," and someone goes, "You know what, I got the same thing." It's reassuring, it's community building, it's great. Sharing experiences. So I need you to have the exact same experience that I did, or as close to it as possible. And this bag is the best way to do that. It keeps it perfectly humidified the same way I smoke it.
Yeah.
You want to be close to the seamstress. You want to be close to the person that's making your product for you. That's the way to get it better and better and better. And so I've used the feedback of the members. So when we put these things out each month, we collect data, we collect feedback, and I use that to predict our future buying preferences.
Okay. So walk me through, because you mentioned the word earlier in this conversation, sommelier, picking out the best wines, et cetera, and having that knowledge. How do you figure out the criteria of the cigars that people receive? Do you have particular notes, evaluations?
Yeah, so when you get the cigar, you get a card with it. I wish I had a few here. They're a postcard. It has a small picture with tasting notes visually. So if I got banana flavors or red pepper, you're going to see it scattered around the cigar. And then you're going to get the story on the cigar, who made it, why they made it, how aged it is, the size, the types of tobaccos used in it. And then on the backside, you're going to get the actual smoke along or tasting notes. The first third I get notes of, and you can look for chocolate, cranberry, whatever it is. And then we have one of those for each third. And then you have the pairing notes. And this is really where you can elevate your experience, because I know what pairs well with that cigar. I tried it 5 times. I worked with a couple of pairings. I know what's going to be good with it. So if you do these things either during or prior to smoking, you're going to have an even more elevated experience, and it's going to be easier for you to get those flavors out of the cigar. Now, when you talk about flavors of a cigar, so we talked about sensation, right? I know yes. I'm kind of veering off, but I think your viewers and newer smokers need to hear this. You have the sensation, then there's the actual flavor. This happens in the olfactory sense. This is from you basically smelling your food. You don't realize what you're doing. You're smelling your food. That's how you get umami mushroom, but fake cherry flavor. pinch your nose while you're getting that or drinking soda, it's not going to taste like anything. So you're actually opening up your sinuses when you eat, and you're getting wafts of the aroma of that thing, and that's how your brain is telling you what you're tasting. It's also the fastest way to recollect memory is the olfactory senses through smell, believe it or not. So it can really evoke some amazing experiences, but you have to learn how to do something which is called retrohale, which is what I kind of just described to you, where you're opening. You don't necessarily have to push smoke through your nose, but you have to be able to open it. Over time, it takes time. There's ways to do it. There's videos out there that can teach you a little bit, but it takes practice. It took me about 6 months. Then you're going to say, oh, wait a minute. That reminded me of a fudge brownie I had at Knoebels. Right. Yeah, exactly. You ever been to Knoebels?
I have. Amazing.
It's such a cool place. I love that.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Blew my mind.
Yeah.
By the way, as you're describing this, it's not the most suave, cool, or Bond thing to do, but I've heard and I've done before a very good meal, before tasting a new wine, and yes, a cigar, I will, and I've been told, to blow my nose. And again, it's not the most Bond cool thing to do. You're not going to impress, your lady friends, etc. But just to kind of open that up to make sure that there's no obstructions or occlusions in the way to enjoy this to the fullest.
I'm not going to say that that's not true at all. I think it's like a clean palate, right?
Yeah, it's like blowing a shofar horn. You call people.
Yeah, I can
order.
do that. I've done that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not very hard, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not a trumpet or anything.
You got some mishpucha here.
Yeah, absolutely.
but I'll tell you what, this is really cool because we're going to put links below on where people can join the club. Now, I'm going to put out the ultimate tease. This is where people start to punch their computers. Brian and I have been oohing and eyeing over this wonderful experience. I said experience before I said cigar because it is an experience. But correct me if I'm wrong. This new cigar with the red band is only available right now to club members.
It's a good commercial for the club, David. I got to tell you, I would join this club.
You mean you're not a member?
Right, exactly. I always thought I was too cool for clubs when I was, an artist or whatever. But boy, you can really get a lot of benefit out of being a part of something. Yeah, it will only be available in the club. We may release some after the 5 or 6 weeks that it's in the club, or 4 weeks. But then some people get it late in the month, so we try to make it so it's a completely exclusive experience for members by members. Some of the cigars we do sell online after, and some we just don't have enough of.
That makes sense. And I think the limitation, it's not an exclusivity, it's an inclusivity, where people kind of come together and can enjoy these, because one aspect we haven't talked about with the club and even with what you've created is something that I think my Bond experience community thrives off, and that is the discussion. So it's not just about acquiring or being in the club.
Yeah.
You have a really robust Instagram and social channel.
Yeah.
What are some of the conversations that are happening on there?
I think it's become quite a collector's culture, and it's about that shared experience. And when you see something that you want, like I equate it to like sneaker collecting or collecting of anything. It's really a collecting culture. And so you see things and you're like, oh, I got to have that. I want that. And I can't just have one. I need one in my humidor too. Or maybe if I fall in love with it, I need like 10 in my humidor or a whole box. So there's that. I think that's what's going on. I think cigars offer an escape to people that smoke them. I see a lot of guys like go out on their lunch break and have a cigar, and it gives them that meditation. It's a meditative thing. And I think when they share it, it's kind of like sharing James Bond quotes or snippets from a movie. It's like it takes you to that place like, oh, I can't wait till after work. I'm going to have a cigar too. So there's a lot of that. And then there's a lot of just love within the Privada community in particular, where they're just like, Dave, saw you, blah, blah, blah. Saw your video last night. It was awesome. That kind of stuff. So this is fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. This is the kind of cigar I want to be responsible for having something to do with.
this is a mixture of goodness and sadness because, you know, I'm a little more advanced because I've been asking you tons of questions, not giving lots of answers, but I'm about where, so is this the part where I take off the band?
You could take off the band there, yes.
So I've got a confession to make, and I wanted to save this towards the end of our video.
Yeah, sure.
The people that have ordered from you the original Delectados, let me tell you what they're doing. This is going to blow your mind, or maybe you know. So what they're doing is they're ordering a few. They don't order just one. They're smoking them, and then when they get to about right here, they put it out, and they're putting it as a display on their collection shelves.
Wow.
So some people have die another day displays, they're putting it there.
Wow.
Some people have no time to die displays, they're putting it there. And this is where they exist.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh my God. I'm going to have to see pictures of this. That is a mind blower right there. Wow.
It's a prop to them. It's a prop. It's something that, yes, it's introduced to them a cigar, but to them, when you say Delectados, you know, to a Bond fan, he's immediately transported back to the Cuba scene.
Yeah.
Or the one where Felix appears in No Time to Die, and they wanted ownership of that.
So when I'm watching the movie, I saw the tubo that he picked up in Havana for Felix, and unfortunately, never got smoked. But I think it might have been crushed or something. Or he's in like a boat after the whole thing goes down, and there's that cigar to remind him of, you know, what happened. And we froze the frame, and it's not a good frame, but we froze the frame. And thank you, Sedated Hype on Instagram, who's a brilliant graphic artist that we work with. He did his very best to try to capture that logo. I also tried to put them in tubos, silver tubos, but the printing just wasn't up to par. And this box came out better. It was better.
It's beautiful too. It's like a work of art.
Thank you,
Brian. We are going to enjoy our smokes. We're going to let everybody go. Again, more information below. Please, Privada Cigar Club. You can find them on Instagram. And where else can you find them? What other social channels?
So Instagram, when you join the club, you get an invite to the Facebook group. You also get an invite to something called social.cigarpublic. Cigar Public is basically the news for our industry. It's a newer site that I had to do with helping get off the ground, and it's awesome. It's just a great place to basically stay abreast of what's going on in the cigar community, releases, events, stuff like that. And then we also have, what else do we have? We have a Discord group. Again, you have to be a member for that. Once you become a member, you start getting little, tips and tricks and invites to do certain things, and that's where the real community
begins.
Yeah, exactly.
The world opens up.
Yeah.
But the world is not enough. So we're going to have Brian back.
That's awesome.
Let us continue.
I'm used to it.
Let us continue the conversation to do a Bond cigar event somewhere.
Yes.
Where maybe you curate certain cigars, maybe even have a unique release for the members and for Bond fans everywhere. But
we should
we'll
do
chat
this
about it.
in Philadelphia, in Rittenhouse, in some old Harvard club or something like that. There's a racket club, some old club that will allow us to smoke because it's grandfathered in, and we'll do you can't just show up. There's got to be a some sort of what do you call it? Like not a scavenger hunt, but there's a mission that you have to go on. It could be very small and easy to do, but something that gets you to the exact location of this thing. And dress is, of course, to the nines.
I love it. Ideating already. This is what he does. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian from Privada. And in the meantime, this has been David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. We'll see you all real soon.
Best channel on YouTube. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.